I was originally just gonna make a video on Assassin's Creed Mirage since I just finished that fully, including the new DLC with Basim's father and all that, which was super short, uh, and I guess not so bad, kind of confusing. I'll talk about it in a second if my memory allows it. But I just made a video on Assassin's Creed Shadows slash Mirage. So I was like, you know what? It'd be kind of dumb to redo that again. So I'll just speak about a subject that's been on my mind a lot lately, which I'm probably sure I spoke about before in one of my little previous videos. But that would be like mental health in gaming, right? Like it's obvious that there is a mental illness associated with gaming. I think that's been the perception, the taboo of video game has definitely been improving since, from 10, 15 years ago. But there's still that stereotype of and I've said this a million times. Sorry if I keep repeating myself, but like, like when the people think of a gamer, they think of like a fat neckbeard in their mom's basement, swigging monsters and eating Doritos. And there's still a lot of truth to that. You can be upset if someone thinks that that's what you are if you identify yourself as a gamer, but you can't blame them, right? Like because for for the longest, right, traditionally, people have thought video games to be a waste of time, right? And that's something us gamers, we battle that. We have to fight those. I'm not superstitions, but those what's the word I'm looking for here? We have to fight those misconceptions. I don't like addressing myself as a gamer because it's kind of cringy to me personally. But like no disrespect to those that do like to call themselves gamers. I understand, but it's just like I don't. That's not what I want to be known for, right? I do a lot of things, right? Like think about it, a gamer, someone who games. Like that's not my identity, Like I'd rather be known as like a good dude, not the nicest or most warm and affectionate guy. I definitely have my flaws. I could be very overly opinionated, you know, but I'm aware. I remember speaking to my girl recently, and I was telling her like how important it is to be aware, how easy it seems like that's a thing to accomplish, but it's so hard for people to take a grasp of it, right? Be aware of what you say, how people perceive you, how you do things. But I'm very that's like a superpower of mine, because I'm able to adjust myself. I can read the room accordingly. So like if I'm, talking to someone and I see I'm offending them, I'm like, all right, let me chill. I'm not gonna dumb down what I said because what I'm going to say because you got to be honest, especially with your friends. You just got to chill. You got to know when you're twisting someone's arm a little too much. So that's my cell phone. Sorry about that. But earlier, I was going to say I was going to speak about Assassin's Creed and the new DLC, which was free, by the way. It was Basim's father. I actually remembered. Can you believe that shit? Uh, and it wasn't bad. It was just like I'm assuming that his dad had some sort of problem mentally, like his dad, which was kind of cool because not the fact that his dad had mental issues, but the fact that uh, it was kind of like a curveball. I wasn't expecting that. I thought his dad was going to be as sharp as Basim, and no, his dad is like dementia. That's the word I'm looking for. Like he couldn't remember Basim, uh, and he kind of was like, yeah, he still thinks Basim is a kid in his mind, and it seems like they're attributing that not necessarily to mental deterioration, like not Parkinson's, but like dementia or like some sort of what's the other one? Yeah, where you're just like I think it is dementia. Or dementia is kind of like a general term. Whatever. He's getting old, he can't remember shit well. He can't even remember his son. And his son Basim is talking to him and this man, his father can't even like put two and two together like, "Oh shit, this is my son." But in a way that was kind of cool because I wasn't expecting that and that was super short, man. Which to be honest with you, I feel like it's most definitely on the super short side. I remember hearing that a number, it was like 6 hours long or something like that. And I don't think that's right. I think it's much shorter than that. But I mean, I guess it's somewhere around that ballpark. But we got it for free, and we got it 2 years after the game came out. The game came out in 2023. Assassin's Creed Mirage did. And we just got an update for that in 2025, which is kind of interesting, right? You don't really see that, like an update for a game, a DLC, shall I say? Not so much an update, but a DLC with actual added content 2 years later. So I don't know. Maybe originally this was supposed to be like a paid thing, and then maybe somebody internally kind of recognized, like, hey man, this is way too short for us to charge money for it. To be honest with you, if they charged money for this, it wouldn't have been a bad deal, you know. But like, it has to be a pretty smart price. Like if you would have charged like $20 for this, I feel like that's asking a little too much. I feel like that's the maximum. $20 for a Valley of Memories. I believe that's the name of the DLC. $20, anything after 20, you're at this point you're just being greedy. You know, like although 20 is pushing it also. I would say I think $10 would be the magic number. $10 would be the magic number. 15 maybe. You can swing 15, you know, whatever. The truth is that even if it was $15, $20 worth of content, you got it for free and it wasn't bad. So I finished that content, which takes place in Alula. I don't know. It's weird because you see it written one way, like in the subtitles, and then they say it a complete different way. Like when they say Khalifa, you know, I read it as caliphate or caliph. You know what I mean? And they're like Khalifa. That's not me making fun. I mean, like they just add extra syllables, and I'm like, all right, I'm never gonna get that. You know. So all in all, man, like it was great. Not damn. The fact that we got the DLC was great. The game itself was good. I would not say the game itself was great. I've already said my piece on that. You know, I feel like the game's like a solid 6, 6.5. You know, definitely worth a playthrough, but it's not gonna knock your socks off. I got it on sale for $13. That's a fucking steal. You know, that's worth way more than $13. So I would say what I really wanted to talk about was like, since I spoke earlier about what people perceive the average gamer as, that is changing. I feel like you know, now video gaming is a lot more respected than it used to be with the esports thing. You already know how I feel about that. I fucking hate the name esports. I feel like it should be anything else but esports. It could be e-challenge, e-competition, whatever. But adding the word sports to it. And I know some people get offended when they hear that. Sorry, it's not personal. It's just the name. You know, I'm not saying that esports shouldn't exist. Esports are fucking cool. You know, I watch Evo every single year. For those that don't know who that is, which, you know, if you're a video gamer, you got to know what that is. It's the fighting video game championship that happens every year. It's a huge one. I went to Evo. I think it was either 2024 or 2025. It was 2024. I went to Evo 2024. It was great. It was fun, man. It was a lot. I had a blast. Vegas is hot as fuck, but it was great. Anyways, I'm not saying that I hate sports. I'm just saying I hate the title. The actual sports are cool. Whatever. So it's weird because, you know, along with reviewers of video games, criticizers of video games, anybody who partakes in the assessment of video games, it's all subjective, right? Fun is subjective, right? Some people love puzzle games, some people find them tedious. You know, I got a buddy who loves collecting in video games. I fucking hate it. I find it tedious and time wasting to run around an entire map and collect little trinkets. Like I hate that. He loves it. He loves doing that, you know? And this goes back to a question that I always ask myself, and I always ask friends who are also do play video games. I was gonna say gamers, whatever, same shit. I always ask them like, do you play video games because you enjoy them, or do you play video games because you feel compelled to? And I guess the real question I should be asking is, speaking of collecting, right, and also tedious things in video games, or at least things that are considered tedious by most people, like collecting things, getting all of the achievements, like platinum a game. I think that's what kids call it when you platinum a game. Maybe they don't call it that anymore, but I swear at one point that meant collecting all the trophies. So to me, that is extremely tedious. I don't think there's a game that I've ever played in my life where I collected absolutely everything. Maybe there was probably like an old school game that wasn't as huge as the modern games, but I cannot recall any game that comes to memory where I completely got every achievement, everything that you possibly can do in the game. I'm sure if I sit here and I thought long enough, I could probably think of like an old SNES title or something like that. But as far as modern games, I never do that because I feel, and I honestly, I think most people don't. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, like I said, I don't know the statistics. So I'm talking out of my ass here. But if I had to guess, right, if money was on the line, I go, most people don't play video games to collect everything. Only a certain amount of people do. So which leads me back, right, to the question which I asked, like those people who collect things, I wonder, like, do you do this because you genuinely enjoy collecting things, or do you do it because you feel compelled to? Maybe there's some sort of a driving force behind that, and it's not a good one, right? Like maybe it's mental illness, people who have OCD, right? There are some people like I remember, and this is coming from uh, someone who's very familiar with OCD. I remember someone told me one time there was a lady who she had severe OCD, and of course this is an extreme case, but she couldn't leave her house. I forgot for the amount of hours she said. She said somewhere between 4 to 7 hours every single day before she leaves work. So I'm assuming she has to wake up early and she has to feel her walls, right? And if something feels off, she would start all over. So let's say she's 3 hours in and she feels like a bump or something like that, or she gets distracted and can't really, concentrate on where she was and feeling the walls, she would start all over. So it would take her anywhere from 4 to 7 hours just to leave the house. And I was like, man, like that's wild, right? Like, but that lady doesn't want to do that, right? You ask that lady, do you enjoy feeling the walls? She's gonna go, no, it's just sickness. I can't help myself. I wonder if people who collect things feel the same way. I I know that's not the greatest comparison. There's just some people out there who fucking enjoy it. That I understand. If you come up to me and say, I love collecting things, I genuinely enjoy it, I won't even question you any further. I go, I get it. I understand. But for like other people, right, the ones who feel compelled to, they feel like I gotta do it. Otherwise, there's this feeling inside of me that just won't allow me to continue or focus on anything else. An extreme uneasiness, right? That just makes me just like, you know, just hunker down and get these goddamn trophies or collect these, coins or whatever the actual items are. So it makes me think, like I have a friend who does that, and I know for a fact he has mental issues. This is, he's come clean about that many times. So I'm like, okay, I can explain his behavior. Like, he doesn't have much going on in his life. That sounds fucked up. I didn't mean that as an insult. It's the truth. It's an observation, not an insult. The truth is that when you don't have a lot going on in your life, you got a lot of time. And when you got a lot of time, play a lot of video games. So it's like, of course, if I had weeks, days, years, in his case, years, right, where nothing's happening, I'm waking up, I don't have to go to work, I don't have a wife or kids to attend to, I don't have friends really, once again, I have to remind you guys, it's not a disrespect thing. It's a genuine, harsh, truthful observation. If I had that much time, I'll be playing fucking games all day too, and I'll be platinuming everything, right? I'll be collecting it because I got the time. So in my case, maybe that's it. Maybe I just made a breakthrough talking to myself here, right? Maybe because I feel like I don't have the time, but I kind of do, because in my personal life, I don't have kids neither. I mean, I do have a girlfriend, I do have my own place, I do have a job, so those things take up time, but they don't take up, I can always make time for video games, like, so I, I wouldn't say time for me is why I don't like collecting shit. I feel like if I'm playing a game where, there's stuff to explore, there's stuff to do, people to fight, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the meat, you know. Collecting things to me is like the appetizers, right? It's like, no, man, I'm going to get to the steak and potatoes, right? Like I've had enough of this fucking buttered bread. You know what I mean? And to me, the steak and potatoes is, exploring, kicking ass. I tend to like open world RPGs, right? Which reminds me again, since we're on the subject of mental health and gaming, right? Like it's a like I made a comparison earlier about how people, video game critics and reviewers, it's got to be tough for them because they like what they like, and what they're doing is like, hey everyone, this game, I don't like it. That's basically what they're doing, and they have power. That has power because there's a lot of people who aren't quite sure what they think of the game, or they haven't bought the game yet and they're on the fence about it, and then they hear this one guy who says he doesn't like it, and then they go, I ain't gonna buy it because, you know, BillyBadass.com on YouTube told me not to get it. And that sucks. I hate hearing that. Whenever I hear that, it disappoints me because it's like, don't let someone else make up your mind, bro. I can't tell you, I can't stress this enough. I have played so many games that have been universally panned by critics, and I ended up enjoying. I'll give you a few examples. Remember that game Godfall? Everyone was like, this game's ass. Everyone was like, this game's terrible. I played it with my girl and it wasn't that bad. I'm not going to sit here and sell you a dream. It's not a game that it's memorable, but me and her played it. And I remember we played it for a few hours. We actually played it for maybe like 3 or 4 days straight. No bullshit. And I'm sorry if I gave these examples already, but they're the only ones that come to mind. So this Godfall game, and then once after the 3 or 4 days that we played it, we both looked at each other and I said, "What did you think about that game?" I was like, "Was it really as terrible as people said?" And she was like, "No." She was like, "It was kind of fun." And I was like, "Yeah, it was kind of fun." And I'm sure it's because I was playing with her that made it much more fun. But the game itself wasn't that bad. I don't know, man. You can look at me and you can go, "Shut the fuck up, Danny. You're always like being positive and shit." And I'm like, "No, it's not about being positive. It's just that like my viewpoint is like I feel like kids for the smallest reasons today, and mostly kids. When I say kids, I mean anyone younger than me because I'm a fucking dinosaur, right? So basically anyone else but us old people. So like I feel like the younger generation, they're quick to call things trash and ass and just completely dismiss it. And they use this language that's like absolute, right? There's no shades of gray. It's just like it's either ass or it's peak or it's fire or whatever the kids use. It's never like, this game's not so bad. Although they do say mid. Mid is I will say that their mid is another word that's been used a lot. So let's throw that out there. But for the most part, I guess that's people in general, right? They think in extremes. But I haven't, man, I can't tell you the last game that I played where I genuinely thought, like, man, this game is trash from the beginning to the end. I have played games, however, that the performance was trash, where I was like, man, this is hard to continue playing. Like it's buggy, it crashes all the time, it's lagging. Out Fallout 76 when it first came out, I had that shit, bro. And I remember I got it on sale like a week or two after it came out. It was like the quickest AAA title to go to sale, and obviously, for obvious reasons, right? It wasn't doing too well, and I guess they wanted to make as much money as possible. But anyways, yeah, Godfall is one of those games that people universally panned by critics. I ended up liking Outriders. I think it is. It's like this shooter game or whatever. That game was a lot more fun than what critics let on. Like that one, I was expecting to be like Godfall. Like, I'll probably get 2 3 days of enjoyment. Me and my girl actually genuinely liked that game. And here's the best part. I remember I had a friend, right, who I just love validation. But I had a friend who said that he didn't want to try the game originally because he heard it wasn't bad, it sucked. I remember he said this a few years ago, if I recall correctly. And then he recently played it again, like maybe a year or two ago, because I think it was on sale or something, or they were giving it away as a free PlayStation game. And I quote free. I'm using air quotations now because it's only free as long as you have the subscription. Don't fucking get me started on that, man. Don't turn this into a fucking angry podcast. So, anyways, PC Gamer Life. He ended up playing it and he was like, "Man, this game's fun." Like, and I was like, "I told you, man." I was like, "I don't know why that game got so." I mean, the story wasn't the greatest. The voice acting wasn't the greatest, but the gameplay was fun as hell. Upgrading your guns and then your skills, and it was a cool shooter. Um, I'm sure if I think long enough, I'll find a third game that I can give you as an example. But point is, when it comes to video games and mental health, it's hard to tell, right? Because just like it's all subjective, just like the reviewers and the criticizers of video games. It's all subjective. Fun is subjective, and I'm not gonna say that mental health is subjective, but I will say like for some people, they can play 12 hours a day and still wake up and do their duties, right? I have met, how like functioning alcoholics work, right? They have an issue, they have a problem, but they still manage to get it together and become functional members of society. There are people out there because that's an addiction, right? Alcoholism is an addiction. Video gaming can be an addiction too. Well, 100%. I've seen it. I see it regularly with friends that I know, and most of my friends play video games. Some a little too much. But point is, They're also I have also met these people who are just like functioning alcoholics. They wake up, they go to work, they do everything they have to do. But then when they come home, that's all they do. From the moment they get out of work to 2, 3 in the morning, they're playing games. Nothing else. And I'm just like, wow, that's a little crazy. And this is coming from someone who I love video. I just stopped playing a video game to record this because I told myself I got to get back on this. It's been difficult because it's hard to get the time because usually I do these when I'm alone and my girlfriend's at work. But lately, me and her been working the same shift, and me and her been working full time. So I haven't had any time to do these privately. But point is, I feel like that's an issue, right? From someone who's been playing games since I was a kid, and I'm 40 years old now. So I can tell you that, like, if I'm playing games for 12 hours a day regularly, that's an issue, man. And I know some people hear that and they go, "Fuck you." It's not. It's the way I entertain myself. Totally understand. It's the way I entertain myself too. And it's not fair for me to call someone mentally ill for an arbitrary number. I can't say 8 hours is healthy, but 12 hours is sick, and I think I used that word arbitrary correctly. I hope I did. I can barely spell that shit, but I can probably say, what the hell was that? I just saw a red flash near my socket. I hope I don't blow up. So, yeah, like it's kind of weird, right? Because I can say 8 hours is fine, but 12 hours is too much. It's weird. That's weird. But 8 hours is a lot too, for one session. You should probably get up and stretch a little bit and fucking, blink your eyes a bit. Touch grass, preferably. I'm not here to tell you. I'm not no licensed fucking psychologist, therapist, psychiatrist, counselor, you name it. I'm none of that. I'm just a regular ass dude, stranger from the internet that wants to offer you candy. So I can't tell you you're mentally sick. I can't tell myself I'm mentally sick. It's just there's something that feels wrong about, you know, I said this before. There's something that feels wrong about just doing something too much, right? Like I have a friend who the other day, me and him kind of got into it because he plays video games for 12, 14, 16 hours a day, right? Then and it's the same type of video games, right? You have to literally like force him to play another type of genre or another type of video games. When I say the same type of video games, I'm talking about like this, he thinks this one particular survival game is great, then he's going to play a bunch of survival games that are like it. So he's playing games 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And then on top of that, he's playing the same type of games for 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And then he tells me he has the audacity to go, all games are the same. There hasn't been any new inventions or reinventions. It's just been the same. This is the formula. And then he starts to break down the formula. And I'm like, bro, you need to take a break. And then he's like, why are you turning it personal? I was just speaking generally. He felt like I was attacking him personally. And I'm like, bro, like, I guarantee, look, how you think has everything to do with how you live. I don't think his perspective on video games, right, would be the same if he took time off of video games and actually stretched his legs, right? Got a drink of water, walked around his apartment, went shopping, took a few hours away, maybe a day or two away from video gaming, and then come back. I don't feel like his perspective would be so negative. Like there's, all video games are the same. Mind you, by the way, he says this and still continues to play video games for 12, 14, 16 hours a day. It has not hindered him one bit. So I'm telling him like he thinks I'm attacking him, but I'm like, bro, it's you. I don't think it's video games. I think it's you. I think you need some air, man. You know? And it's like talking to a brick wall because he gets upset and he thinks I'm attacking him. And I'm like, okay, man, just go ahead. Do you then. Fine. All video games are the same. Fine, sure. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those moments. And I can't help myself but to think, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to speak about mental illness in video gaming, because he's the main reason. Because I remember thinking, like, that's not right, man. I remember talking to my girlfriend and telling her, like, I don't think that's good for you, man. And this is coming from a gamer. A gamer who just yesterday, I probably play what 6 7 hours straight. We were playing. We're all four of us. It's me, my girl, and two friends of mine, and we're playing 7 Days to Die. We're enjoying it. I know we're a little. It's a little past its prime, past its expiration date, but 7 Days to Die is still a solid game, man. It's still quite possibly the best zombie game I've ever played, next to Zomboid. They're great games, you know. But anyways, we were. This is coming from someone who can sit down for long periods of times and play video games also. So I feel like that's you should really pay attention to that, right? That's like I know it sounds like the how's that metaphor go? The pot calling the kettle black or something like that. I know from one gamer calling another gamer mentally ill. It's just like, bro, you play video games almost as long as I do. But it's not the same though, and it's not just because I have more responsibilities than him. It's just that like I'm also not as negative as him. Like, he tends to use the word escape a lot when he plays video games, and I use the word enhance. And what I'm trying to make him understand is like if you are sitting down in front of a computer, right? And you're shunning all of your responsibilities because you don't want to look for your job, you don't want to be healthy, you don't want to eat healthy, you don't want to work out, you don't want to do anything constructive, you just want to escape all that and play video games. I feel like you have a serious mental issue, right? Me on the other hand, and I'm not just saying this because it's me, anyone who thinks like this, anyone whose life is okay, I wouldn't say my life is perfect or great, I'm still poor last time I checked, and my life isn't the greatest, but it's all right. I'm doing fine. I count my blessings. I don't have much, but what I have, I appreciate. So, anyways, my point is that when I sit down, I don't think escape. I think enhance. I think like, oh, my life is pretty good. I'm gonna play video games and make it a little better. I'm not going like I'm gonna actively escape everything when I'm playing a game. I don't think like that, and that's how he thinks. And I'm like, there's something wrong with that. Like he's trying to justify it, and he's trying to make it like romanticize it almost. I'm like, no, that sounds like an issue, brother. Once again, some air, some water. Take a walk around the block, man. And it's hard. It's hard because it sounds like I'm being judgmental, but at the same time, it's like, you need to hear that shit, man. That's what friends are for, right? A friend needs to be straight with you. They need to let you know, like, hey, man, you're slipping, brother. Like I would hate for my friend to just be like, okay, sure, okay, sure, okay, sure. I understand your pain. I understand your trauma. I'll be like, get the fuck away from me, man. You're not being honest with me. I need someone to slap me, slap me out of my stupor. But yeah, man, I guess all I'm saying is that like there's a limit, right? Like, one drink is fine, two drinks is okay, three drinks okay. We're starting to get a problem here. So it's wild, man. It really is. I always knew video games were addicting, but I never thought I would meet people. And he's not the only one. He's not the I have other friends that I know. Like I said, most of my friends, and I don't have a lot. I know a good amount of people, but when I say friends, I don't use that word loosely. I probably got maybe 5 friends that I can count off, and I think one of them is my cousin, so that kind of doesn't even count. Probably got, yeah, probably like 4 or 5 friends in total, and a cousin. So I don't have a lot of friends, but I do know a lot of people, like acquaintances and stuff. But I know, in general, acquaintances included, as well as friends, I know people who are like severely addicted to video games. I know more than one, and I'm just like, wow, I never thought that would be a problem, right? Like I never thought that. I thought you could just, stop playing, just turn the fucking PlayStation off, get up, and go enjoy your life. But no, for some people, it's just they just can't do that. And when you tell them, it's just like, you start to when you tell them like, hey man, you need to turn that off and do things, not only do they get upset with you, but you also start to uncover all of these issues mentally where it's like, oh, this is a lot deeper than games. He's just using games to cope. This is like he needs to start healing other things, other areas in his life. Uh it's quite sad, but whatever, he's still my friend. He annoys the living shit out of me, but that's still my boy. And I'm never gonna stop being honest with him. But I'll know when to pump the brakes. I know when to go. All right, I've been going a little too hard on him lately. What do you want to do, man? What do you want to talk about? I always try to be nice, although sometimes I feel like he blatantly takes advantage of it. But yeah, man. I mean, if you're one of those people, man, you're one of those people that feel like video games an escape, and you don't want to do any of your responsibilities, and you're shunning away society and your health. And man, look, I could be funny about it, but I'm not. Like, try to get some help. Like, like in any I'm not even, not only professional, but if you can get that, great. But just help, talk to somebody and be like, look, man, or help yourself. That's the best option. If I can tell you one, help yourself, kind of go, you know what? Okay, enough. Like, I got to treat video games like a treat. Knock out everything I have to knock out, and at the end of the night, I get a treat. Or at the end of the day, I get a treat. I get that's the way I look at it. But if you can help yourself, do that, like, and you got to think about it. Video games is just the vehicle, right? You can abuse anything, you know? So it's tricky. But if you are one of those people out there, man, try to help yourself, or get help, or, realize that overdoing it by playing way too many video games in one shot, and then regularly, frequently, that can, yeah, sure, there's a lot of benefits to it. It enhances mental I was gonna say, what's the word? Awareness. I don't know. I know that it makes you more sharper mentally, and I know they're even using it for older people to combat all sorts of neurodegenerative diseases. I'm sure I butchered that word. Uh, so yeah, there's pluses to it, but too much of it is bad. Whatever, man. Look, you do you. I didn't start this channel to be a fucking fake therapist. All right. At the end of the day, you want to play 18 hours a day, by all means. I can't stop you. I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean? But just know that, it's a problem with that. If no one has told you that, I'll tell you that. And I'm only talking to you the way I would talk to myself. If I'm playing 16 hours a day, I'd be like, Danny, you got a fucking issue. You need to go out there and stretch your legs before you fucking lose them to bad circulation. Which one of my friends has, by the way. No bullshit. Like, he lives a sedentary life to the point where his feet swell up. Now you tell me if that's not a problem, right? And I don't care what anybody says, when you start suffering physically because of your addiction, you need to fucking stop, whatever that is. Anyways, I'm glad I was able to bum you out, because I just bummed myself out. Hopefully next time I have a subject that's a little more fucking brighter than what I just said. Either way you put it, is it feels good to be back for a bit. I hope I can do this a lot more frequently. I just enjoy talking to the air. See you guys later.